Okay, to the people who are asking, what are you talking about? This is my theory that I've had for over a year and a half really, of which has really borne out, that Taylor Swift is using, and other artists too, are using this alchemical imagery to indicate that they're telling a larger story than just, their albums and stuff. Taylor is using this sort of death rebirth structure, and it comes from alchemy, which was actually like what people were doing in the Middle Ages, trying to turn lead into gold. And then that sort of process of those scientific breakdowns and the things that happened as people tried to do that scientifically became sort of metaphors for the soul's journey and like a symbol of self-actualization. Like Jung was very into it. It's throughout literature as like a story structure. So different, there's three main phases, but there's other phases within that. There's 4 stages, but sometimes the last 2 are combined, or the third one is sort of left out. But so that's where it comes from, and it's throughout his literature too. There's different ways that people use this. One of the major ones that I first heard about was actually the Hunger Games uses alchemical symbolism. So it goes from like Black Death to burning fire to triumph over evil. It's kind of basic structure, and there's all these different flags that you hit during it. This is another good Tumblr summary I found of it. Physical alchemy, spiritual alchemy, literary alchemy. Alice in Wonderland's also extremely alchemical. Dante too. Dante's structure of Inferno, Purgatory, Paradise are extremely alchemical. Jung, talking about that. And then there's like a breakdown of each stage and how there's different things that happen in each stage. So, all that. And then there's an example of Bejeweled is kind of one of the things. The first thing that really hit me was I said, oh, that's alchemical, was when she said, in Daylight, I once believed love could be burning red, but it's golden, which is this alchemical sequence. And then I started thinking more and more. I was immediately thought when she was doing Midnight's Mayhem, when she kept saying meet me at midnight, that immediately made me think Hunger Games, because that's a phrase in the second book where they say that right before they're about to blow up the arena, which there's a lot of that symbolism. So I really have all this stuff about her using like Hunger Games symbolism. And Kristen, aka Under the Pink, has been working on this whole elaborate documentation of several artists across the entertainment industry and all kinds of things, trying to undermine the industry and create, expose toxicity, and then create more artist rights and more just like fewer morality clauses and more just like pure self-expression and less like toxicity, exposing that so that artists can be more in control of their art. And I think this is part of it. This is the alchemical imagery. So Bejeweled is a good example of her using extreme amounts of alchemical imagery. And so it starts off with her, this is Cinderella's story. Cinderella is very alchemical. So starting off with cleaning up gross stuff, which is what you do. First you burn the hell out of lead, theoretically. And that reduces it to what's called the prima materia, which is this like stripped down essence. And then it gets black and charred. And there's all this peacock imagery too, which is a big thing. And then it goes through this sort of baptism, or this white blue silver, where it's washed off of the impurities. So this is the second stage. Then there's the Saint Trinitas, which is the sort of yellow stage, and red and purple stage. And then there's like an alchemical wedding, which is a whole part of it, because you're trying to do these things and like manipulate nature to turn lead into gold. So there's all this like union and dissolution and all this stuff. So that's part of the wedding thing. And then the red and the gold again, and then the fire and the castle. So that's basically, and so I've been going through, and me and others have noticed a lot of different, death rebirth imagery. So it's basically this cycle of midnights being, the sort of Negredo situation, being the prima materia and that you build off of. And then Tortured Poets is I noticed that has a lot of albedo imagery, a lot of purgatorial imagery, which is classic albedo imagery, a lot of water and cleansing of sins, like Black Dog, I want a higher priest to come and burn up all my clothes and get rid of all my demons. What's the phrase? Detoxify my demons. So then based on those two things, based on Midnights having Inferno imagery, which I haven't really even done as much of a deep dive on as I've done on TPD, but I want to go back and do that to sort of have the whole thing laid out. And then based on those two things, that's kind of confirmed to me that there's this structure going on, and also she has a song called The Alchemy, which shows that she has heard of it. And then so I was looking for it, having read Paradise and having read, expecting the third stage or the third and fourth kind of combined stage of alchemy. And there's all these stages that happen within stages too. Having felt that, I was waiting to see, am I going to see like Golden Red and Dawn and Opposites and all of this stuff. Reconciliation of Opposites and all of this other stuff. And so I started to see it. So that's what that was about. And the whole thing is a cycle within cycles. There's numerous minute moments within these larger cycles. So that's part of why it's a recursive loop. And Dante himself, the Commedia, is a recursive loop where he gets to the ending and then starts writing it from the end. So it's a whole loop. So that's my broad overview for new people who haven't been in my brain for a year and a half.